The gentle person whom I speak is Lord Cormac O'Dunne of the Lord Cormac O'Dunne from the Militant Society of Bards. Please put your hands together. I'm Steve. Everybody hear me? Yes. Outstanding. All right. My story is a documentable period story, just not from period. This is, I like telling old stories from the SCA, and this was a very old story about the history of our dear kingdom. This was back when Kai'd was merely a principality, and the society was beta testing dirt. Long time ago, there was a baron, and this baron wanted to compete for the coronet of Kai'd. Sadly, this baron was a lone baron, had no baroness to compete for, so he went to his friend and said, "Would it be all right if I competed for your daughter?" And he said, "That would be great. You can stand at the side and wave and feel special. It would be wonderful." Well, no one expected him to win, and he did. And a 10-year-old was crowned Princess of Kai'd. Now, many good gentles tell their little daughters, "Oh, you're a princess." Well, she had hundreds of people tell her she was, and bowing as she walked by. But she's one of the finest monarchs this kingdom has seen. Or so I've been told. This was before my time. Now, at Australia War, sadly enough, at the time, if you were under the age of 18, you could not be on the battlefield to watch. So she had her warriors going into battle for her honor. And sadly enough, she could not go watch them. But being a fine and upstanding lady in her station, she was running around, running errands, carrying messages, and generally being useful. And this was a particularly muddy Australia, so they had hay paths set along. And she was walking down one of these hay paths with her coronet on in regalia, and a duke and his entourage were walking by her. And this duke walked by. She scooted over as far as she could on the path to allow the duke to pass. And the duke walked by, stopped, turned, and said, "Little girl, where I come from, little girls bow to dukes as they pass." She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, Your Grace." He gives her courtesy and moves on. Now, at the time, the king of the West, of which we were a principality, was a king you've probably all heard about. He's been king more times than I have fingers and toes. Duke Paul of Bellatrix. And he went up to the Princess Larissa and said, "How was your first day as Princess of War? Did you have a good time?" She said, "Yes, I had a good time, but this one duke was really rude." And just, I don't know. And he leaned over and said, "Would you recognize him again if you saw him?" "Yes, I believe I would." And he stood up and said, "Everybody put on all your best. We're going on procession." I've been in the SCA about 6 years now, and I've seen 2 royal processionals in my life. It's not something that happens often, as anybody might know. But this was not just a processional of the West, which is in and of itself a fine thing to see. This was a processional of the West and Kai'd. And and everybody knows we do it best. So, the procession of the West and Kai'd was about 80 to 100 people, which is a small processional for this kingdom. And they walked into this duke's camp, and the duke was bowing and scraping as befitting a lord of his station. And Duke Paul of Bellatrix was up in front with his lady, and he said, "Your Grace, I don't believe you've met the new Princess of Kai'd." And he stepped aside, and there was Larissa, in full regalia. And Larissa looked at the Duke, drew herself up to her full 4 feet, and says, "Your Grace, where I come from, lords bow to ladies as they pass." At that second, 6 gauntlets were thrown at the Duke's feet by all the Kingsguard of the West. Now, for all of you who know about Kingsguard, you have to be respected as a fighter by the king, Paul of Bellatrix, to be on the Kingsguard. Now, this duke was not only a duke, but a knight, so he could not refuse an honorable challenge. The next day, he armored up, and those six guards beat the heck out of him. And to this day, that duke has never failed to bow to a lady as she passes. At the behest of the Honorable Lady Ailey-Swan, I have to give the epilogue to this story. At 12th night, where I received my award of arms, I was telling the story because I like telling it. And a lady walked up to me, and I said there were 8 gauntlets thrown at his feet. She says, "Excuse me, there are 6. And being a bard and far too full of myself at the time, I turned and said, "I'm telling the story, and I'll tell it how I please, Your Excellency." Oops. And I finished and turned to the Excellency and said, "Pardon me, but how would you know?" She said, "I don't believe you've met. I'm the Viscountess Larissa."